Thank you everyone for joining the webinar series, The Great Migration to the Snowflake. One of our last webinars is going to be about insights assets that we have developed to speed up the migration process and modernization process from on-premise to the cloud, but of course tool can be used on-premise as well. So today I'm going to be hosting the sessions with my colleague Istok Sherbets, senior consultant and data engineer, and of course product owner of DataMerlin data warehouse automation tool we're going to present today. Istos has been in this data landscape for more than 20 years, finishing hundreds of data management projects, and we'll be doing a demonstration of DataMerlin today and short hands-on demo. Everyone are really welcome to put all the questions under chat or question tab, and we'll try to answer all of them at the end of the session. Before continuing, just a reminder that we have done 5 webinars already, starting with migration process, migration readiness assessment process, basically presenting how companies should start and prepare for the migrations. Following up with the technical sessions, we had a session to explain how migration process works from IBM Netezza to Snowflake, Microsoft SQL Server to Snowflake, and Oracle Exadata to Snowflake. As mentioned, we're going to finish up this series with our data warehouse automation tool, DataMerlin, and farm data movement tool coming up. So without further ado, let's go and jump in. For all of you that doesn't know our company yet, just a short introduction about the company. We have been on the market for 11 years as a separate entity, but most of the colleagues have 15 plus years experiences from the data landscape, engineering, consulting, development. We're based in Ljubljana, Slovenia. We have 60 employees already, around 50 consultants and data engineers, the rest the back office and sales and marketing team that I'm part of as well. So far we have done more than 150 successful projects. We've done development and migrations from traditional on-prem platforms or cloud platforms such as IBM, Oracle, Informatica, SAP, of course, to the modern cloud solutions. For the past 4 years, our strategy is cloud first, and we are mostly working on modernizations and migrations to cloud. Of course, in order to do that, you need a deep industry experience and know-how. So we are focusing on these 5 industries you see on the screen, with huge emphasis on financial industry, banking, insurance, telecommunication, retail, and energy. And we believe that it's really important to combine technical and business expertise. We've been working with modern platforms such as Snowflake, Microsoft, Tableau as a BI tool, mainly using Databricks for data science, and a couple of others modern data warehouse automation tools apart from DataMerlin. What we do, we've been in this analytics space, as mentioned, for more than 15 years. Our goal is advisory and consulting. We do end-to-end data management solutions. So basically everything from data ingestion all the way to the visualizations. Already mentioned cloud-first strategy, helping customer to move their data landscape to the cloud. Performance management, big emphasis on data science services, and for, let's say, small and mid-sized companies, we do fully managed services as well. So the biggest question is actually how to start, where to start, what approach to take. As mentioned, we have presented different types of project activities, from the initial assessment all the way to the cloud readiness assessment services in our previous webinars. So if you want to check the webinars, you're very welcome to visit our webpage. Under webinar tab, you'll find all the recordings available. Again, if you have any questions, just stop, put the questions down, and we'll ask later on. So where to start, what to discuss, how to use the tools. This is something that we're gonna focus on today. Already mentioned, coming up is our Ant Farm data movement solution, starting on June 17th at 12 p.m. Central European Time, where we're going to explain how to lift and shift data from on-premise systems to the cloud. Now let's focus on DataMerlin, data warehouse automation tool. As you see, a lot of projects failed because companies tend to look for the shortcuts. There aren't any shortcuts when it comes to data warehouse development. But as you will see today, you can speed up the development process. You can lower the dependency on the IT, and you can have everything, the whole data warehouse automation in one solution. So now I'm going to pass the microphone to Istok, that's going to present DataMerlin.
Okay, nice to see you, even though I don't see you. So, because I really don't see the faces, I wouldn't know if the presentation is focused enough and if I'm telling the right thing. So you can just interrupt me anytime you want, and we can discuss things you are interested in. Okay. And I also don't know about your technical expertise or your more business orientation. So I'll try to do both things, but we can move to one or other direction. Okay. So I will talk about our try to make data warehousing life easier. And data warehouse profession, building the data warehouses is not an easy task, and it's always been a struggle. Okay, as somebody nicely said, that especially with ETL and stuff like that, it's like living in trenches. So it's a kind of war, and when you do that for a long time, you can see that there are many things you have to do all over again, and different teams, even in the same company, do things differently. And I was data warehouse in data warehousing for a long time, and even though we were, let's say, in the same project, and I don't know, 5 or 10 people, each one of us had his own approach or her own approach. And you could just see from time to time that you have a personal stamp on your things. So somebody is more innovative, somebody is more sloppy, somebody is more precise but slow. And so and the question arose: can we do something about to make things uniform, and that we can, and also that that the building would be much more precise and quicker. Okay, so this is our response, and it was built from our own needs, because we do that kind of things for a long time, and the thing or the tool is mature enough that we can try to share our approach. So, and this data warehouse automation is a kind of is a general field, but we were not really focused on that at the time when we built this. We were not really aware of other things doing doing the same thing, or at least we didn't try to copy this data warehouse automation from somebody else. It was just from our own needs, and it was also refined and developed according to the needs. Okay, so maybe you will see if this if it is comparing to other things a good approach. Okay, so there are a couple of things you meet all the time on the warehouse project. So there are many repetitive tasks you have to do. So and the question arose: what can we do that everything you don't really invent on the project, that what can we do that this thing could be done automatically, okay, and with as less ETL effort as possible. In fact, the best would be no ETL effort. So I will show you that we are very close to that. Okay, and whatever you do, I've been in, as I said, many years in this data warehousing thing, and because of the struggle, many times it happens that you, at the end of the project, you have to deliver documentation. I don't know if somebody is in the same position, but then you just try to remember what you do, and then you produce. We did produce, I don't know, a lot of documentation, and we delivered documentation. Nobody really cared. At least if it was there, it was good enough. Until something really happened, and then the customer checked that. And of course, this deployment at the end, one thing is development, one thing is deployment. So, and then on projects, it's kind of divided. So, and if it would be good if we could auto deploy everything we do effortlessly. Okay, and the question arose, as I said before, many teams do things differently. Our company does data warehousing and all the things differently than some other company, and also inside a company, different teams do a little bit differently. So there are, of course, some rules and things you have to stick to, but how do we keep history? How do we create the jobs keeping the history? What are the ETL fields? What are all different kind of things can we do that in the same fashion for everybody, and not just for our team, but for wherever you go, you can stick to the same notations and to the same rules. Except, and the tool, of course, must be flexible. That if some customer really wants to keep to their own things, okay, you can just adjust to that. But most of the times they don't. If it is, of course, a new installation, then they just want to acquire everything that is standardized. So. But there are sites, let's say, especially in the light of migration, probably you don't want to, if you migrate to Snowflake, then you don't want to have everything changed. You want to have the same things and the same ETL fields and the same keeping history method than you did before. So you have to be flexible a little bit. Okay. So the tool itself must be flexible. Okay, so when you get to the site, and whatever you have, it must be supported. And so one site is the source, and another site is a target. Target in our case is Snowflake, which is also our preferred database we can load data to, or we can create data warehouse, but it's not really necessary that's the only one. So we have to support both sides. Whatever you have and whatever your source is, we have to support it. And this is one of the challenges as well. Okay, and I will show you, I'll try to tell you that from one point it is okay, one thing is a source, and then when you get to the data warehousing, it doesn't really matter what the source was, whether it was Oracle file, whether it was a DB2 file, table, of course, or CSV file or JSON, whatever, it doesn't really matter. So from that point on, it's a matter of, it's the same work for everything. Okay, this is one thing. And another thing is, of course, if you do modernization, sometimes you will have to, you will come to the challenge, well, what kind of data model you want to have for the target. Okay, if you want to stick to the same one, it's good enough. If you want to go to the to next level, let's say Data Vault has been very popular in the last years. You can do that as well, and our tool must support all that kind of different kind of model types for data warehouse. And of course, if we meet another one, we don't have to change much because we use kind of templates as a interface between the tool and the real world or the data model. Okay, so. And so we support Dimensional, which is good for reporting, Anchor, Super Subtype, Data Vault, and so in principle, even if you have your own, it's still good enough. We can adjust, okay? But if you create data warehousing from the scratch, you have also a kind of choice whether you want to use industry models, let's say for insurance or banking or retail. And a lot of smart people have already thought about the problems and about the business and about how they want to keep the data. It's a kind of general model, and you can just choose whatever you want from that model, and you go on. Or on the other hand, you can just create your custom model, which was more or less it is okay, but it takes some time and adjustments and improvements and stuff like that. So you have a kind of decision. And but the point is, whatever model you will choose, the tool must support it. Okay, and one thing is a model. Then it's a kind, and then on the physical layer, you have also many different kind of things you have to ask yourself. So how do you want to track history? What is going to be the ETL tools? What kind of ETL tools you're going to use? Will they support this new Snowflake cloud thing? Because sometimes, most of the times, you have your database is on-prem. So is that a problem or not? So many different questions arises, and of course, naming conventions and stuff like that. So, and our point is, our tool provides more or less everything. Okay, so now we try to explain. Okay, so as I said, many different model types, and I won't go into that. What are the benefits and what are the in which case you would use each one of them? But we basically, as I said, support, and we don't really care what kind of model do you have. Okay. Okay, so the tool, as I said, replaces ETL development, and we support this auto data vault modeling, more or less, and I will talk about that later on again. So from whatever source you have or whatever target you have, we support it, but basically in the last couple of years, we do, most of the projects are Snowflake oriented, and a lot of people go through that pain to migrate to Snowflake. And this is a kind of process as well, and it's not a very easy task to do, but it's not very difficult as well. It depends. So it depends on your situation, of course. So, and the main difference between how we did things before and how we do things now is that the teams doing data warehousing have changed. So, and so Before that, it was very, very mixed between business analysts and ETL developers, programmers, and specialists for certain kind of ETL tools, whether it was data stage, informatica, some other things, some other tools. And now our prerequisite for the using the tool is just business analyst. And I will try to explain later on what's his job and role on the project. So there are many small teams of developers or data warehouse builders. No deep, really deep technical knowledge is required, except you need to know SQL. So this is our requirement. But as we found, you find always on the site with the customers, you always find people who know SQL, because this is their core requirement to know where the data is. And it's very nice to go to the site, and you just you have your target model, and you must talk to some people on the site with the customers that know where the data is. So and they can prepare these SQLs, and I will talk SQLs, and I will talk about that later. Okay, we provide also built-in methodology. So this is very important. You don't have to wonder how the data warehousing is built and how you're going to do things, and everything is provided. And of course, if you have different methodology than we do, then we have these templates that we can adjust to the situation. Okay, so this is the real world. Okay, on one hand you have source systems, on another hand, on the other side you have your data warehouse, and we are not at the moment in business of course of designing and having deep knowledge about source systems. This is something that each customer has its own world and own knowledge about their source systems, and they have different source systems from each customer. So it would be insane to try to learn and try to understand all the source systems. So you go to the site and you just need to know where the data is. And as I said before, most of the time the customers know about that because that's the life. Okay. On another side, you have a data warehouse model, and at this moment, this is also, it must be there. So we are not at the moment really focused, except for Data Vault. We're not very focused on the building the data model for data warehouse. Of course, we do it as a company, but not as tool. For the tool, it is a prerequisite, so it has to be there. We move into that area and about auto data modeling as well, but it is work to do. So we'll try to we try to learn about the rules with artificial intelligence, machine learning, but it's a way to go. And it's not really focused for today. Okay, and what remains is this. This is what is Merlin all about. So we are interested how to get over the gap as effortlessly as possible. And everything which is, as I said, repetitive, which is hard, which is ETL connected, which is a technical connected, we try to do with the tool itself. Okay, so this is our focus, and this is our tool. Okay. And we claim that everything you really need to do, and this is a kind of in the beginning where we try to develop that, it was a question whether we can cover all different kind of scenarios in the data warehousing that you can load and successfully finish the project. And we claim that it's first thing we claim that so this is sufficient enough, so we can do that. And another thing is it's very difficult to do it faster or easier, because this data analyst who is now building the data warehouse, except for the data modeling, of course, he only needs to create and know how to write this mapping SQL, we call it, or mapping SQL. Okay, and mapping SQL is connected to the sources. It's not really needed. It's one source. You usually in data warehouse projects you have many different sources in one side. So maybe Oracle, maybe flat files, maybe JSON files, maybe DB2, everything connected, and you try to load the data warehouse. Okay, so everything that this data analyst who's now building data warehouse needs to know is that there are two steps. First is this mapping SQL, and another thing. So this is how you're going to acquire the data from the source, and then you try to map. That's why it's called mapping, and that's why all these arrows are. That the result from this SQL to the target table. In this case, it's a fact. Okay, it's a dimension modeling. It was a fact, and the question for one mapping is where is the data for loading this fact table? And in this mapping SQL, it's a little bit twisted. So it's not really from one database, which is normal for SQL, but it can be, we call it federated query. It can be from any source you want. Okay, and when you enter this mapping SQL and you go through the wizard, hopefully I'm going to show you later on. Everything else is created for you on the fly. So all extract tables, all stage tables, all different objects needed to load the target table. Everything is created for you, and you don't really have to do anything special about it. Okay, and there is also a very different approach from my early years of data warehousing, because from this mapping SQL, or how we're going to acquire the data, until final load of the data to the target table, it took a long time. Maybe sometimes a couple of days, sometimes a week, sometimes I don't know. And then something was wrong. Somebody who knew where the data is corrected the requirement, and then you had to do it all over again. So it was a long time. And now this business analyst does it in the same session. So the objective is, when I create one mapping, I have to see the data loaded to the table right there on the spot. So then you know that everything you created was okay. Before you load the data, you don't know. And this is also a kind of nice approach we discovered, and it's a very fast approach as well. Okay. So as I mentioned before, there are two sides of the tool. One is this analyst, and this analyst does all the work practically. And he needs to know, or she, in this case, needs to know where the data is. So basically, he writes this mapping SQL, which combines all different kind of source objects, tables, JSON, flat files, whatever, and loads one specific table. And of course, for many different tables, you have many different mappings. Okay, and one table can be loaded from more than one mapping, but mapping always loads one table. And everything else, the extraction, the possible stage tables, everything this business analyst doesn't really care about. He needs to know where the data is and the structure of the target table, and that's it. So no really big technical intervention or thinking about also about slowly changing dimension 1, 2, how it's going to keep the history, stuff like that. So it's very, of course, he needs to understand that that's going to happen, and he can or she can click the fields and the way of keeping history, but not really deep technical knowledge about hashes and comparing and how it's going to compare. It's always done in the same way. Okay, and then this is the first part, and then the second part is this execution engine. And execution engine waits for the final load, for the loading the specific load table. So this business analyst creates a mapping. Mapping is creates a kind of recipes and puts the recipes to the execution engine. Execution engine takes this recipe or recipes and loads the table. This is one part of the execution table. And but it's nicely to mention, and this is also not very obviously, that we didn't create the scripting mechanism to load the data. So, but it's one execution procedure, let's call it like that, for one type of table. So it's not one table, one script, and 100 tables, 100 scripts. It's one script for all the dimensions, let's say, and one script for all the facts, and one table, one script for all the satellites in some other model, or link tables, or relation tables in some other model as well. So it's a kind of nice move that this execution thing doesn't really explode. And it's not really obvious at the first sight, but it happens to be that you just need to tell the execution engine how to load the data in the same fashion for every type of the table. So, and then this is the one part. How am I going to load one table? First, the mapping is created. Mapping creates a kind of recipes to the execution engine, and then this one table takes all the data from the sources, puts to the extract stage, and then finally to the target table. Now the question arose is, okay, now we have this kind of model at the right. So of course, because tables are dependent, in which order can I load tables, or sometimes they call it orchestration. Some tables can be loaded in parallel, but then execution must wait that every dependent tables are loaded, and then you move on according to this graph or to this model. So it's also added, and we call it load on demand. And so if this business analyst at the end, it is scheduled as well, decides to load I don't know, 3 fact tables, all this load on demand job is created on the fly, and all the dependent tables are loaded in a proper order. Okay, this is also not a very easy task, but it is done for you. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly address this different kind of mapping types. So mapping type is a kind of general concept which is connected to the target table type, which is dimension, fact, or whatever, and also through what kind of stages it goes. So the data can go from source to extract, and from extract to stage, and from stage to data warehouse, or later on to data mart. It depends on your target model, but it can go just from stage to data warehouse, or sometimes like type 6, it can go from you prepare one stage table to a couple of stage tables you combine to prepare another stage table that can be used some other place. So it's a kind of different path depending on your needs. Okay, and this is one thing you have to choose when you develop this mapping. Okay, and this is another presentation of how the data goes, but it's this is just this is the type 1, as if you remember the previous slide. So all the data go from sources to extract phase, and from extract phase to stage. Then when everything is loaded, the table goes to the target data warehouse table. So so do you have to worry anything about that apart from the mapping SQL? No, everything is done for you, even the loading the definitions of the table, creating the extract tables, creating these little interfaces, which are here, little circles here, which is a sign for a kind of procedure that loads the data. And so everything basically is done for you, and you don't really have to worry about the final or the process, and or the you don't have to struggle with it. So the idea is that everything is done for you, and the idea is that everything is done in the same way. Okay, so. And because we have this mapping SQL, okay, and we parse this mapping SQL, and we do many different things with that parsed thing, okay. And one thing is this data lineage. So we know from for each field and for each source table, we know where the fields go through the data warehousing, through the data warehouse, from the source to extract, from extract to stage, from stage to one table, from another table to let's say the fact table, whatever that is. So we know the path of the data that go through data warehouse, and you can search and you can see the graph, and which is another good thing is because we know these dependencies, we can of course create that load on demand. If you remember this, so this is automatic creation of the load and the dependencies of the load. So you don't really have to, like in what we used to do in old data stage times. We used to create these dependencies by hand. So we checked, okay, first we have to load this dimension and another dimension, and here we had some lookup, and lookup had to be before, and then fact table. So we just we created these dependencies manually, but now it's no need. Okay, okay, and of course, as I mentioned before, this automatic documentation is also created for you, and it's not at the end, but it's on the fly. So whenever you go through the process of creating a mapping, all the needed data for documentation is already there. You can print it, you can save it to PDF, and you can just deliver it, and you don't have to do anything about really especially. Okay, and this is of course where do we see the development cycle is shorter with the tool. So it's more or less the ETL almost disappears, and also the people doing this dirty thing with ETL development. It's the hard work. They can do some more smarter things. So it's they can still use it, and you can use them because they have deep technical knowledge, but they can do things that are more interesting and more beneficial than just to create the load for 8 hours a day. So, and then deployment is also very fast because we have two ways of deployment. One is the tool does everything for you, and then which happens in many cases, that we create the deployment scripts. So deployment script is needed when you divide, and which is a normal case, the development and of course business or production. So in the DataMerlin comes into the play only in the development cycle. It could be in production as well, but it turned out that it's better that development is not. The production is just needs only execution engine, if you remember. So you do the deployment and you do all the administrative tables that are needed to execute the loads, and then you have execution engine, and then those recipes, if you remember, are written in those administrative tables, and then the execution engine just has everything that needs in those tables. And so you don't need this really front-end application anymore, except if you want to do some monitoring and stuff like that. And you can so the production and development is divided, and that's why you need these deployment scripts. I forgot to mention, okay, I will do later on. Okay, this load load on demand, I talked about it for some time. So you just the idea is why would I create manually these dependencies when you have all these dependencies already in the repository? So we create whatever load you want to have. And in old times or before the tool, we most of the times we created one big daily or nightly load, okay? And that load included everything needed for us to survive one day, okay? And then it started from midnight and it finished at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we were happy. And then it was more data, something happened, and it started from 9 o'clock, and then it finished at 6 o'clock, and so on and so forth. So, but now you can just divide as you want the load. So you can say, okay, I'm going to load this part of the data warehouse, and you don't have to worry what kind. You just choose the target, let's say facts, whatever, the set of target facts, and so all the needed dependencies are there, and you just create the loads, and you're going to load that in the beginning. And then you can say, okay, these parts of the data warehouse I don't really need straight away 8 o'clock in the morning, and I can afford that. I can load this a little bit later on. And then you can say, okay, the first load is going to be loaded once a day, but I'm going to have this part of data warehouse. I need really that to be refreshed. I don't know, once an hour. So and you can also you decide this is the things I need, so you don't really have to check, but you just say, okay, I want to load this part, not really a big struggle, and you just set a schedule, okay, once an hour, and then you can also set that let's say the big warehouse, the big load extracted certain tables, and you can say those tables are fresh for I don't know, for 6 hours, and then they are not fresh, and then they have even another load comes and wants to extract the same data. It will extract it again if the data is not fresh. If fresh, then okay, just let it be. Why would we struggle to extract the same data once again if it is still okay? So you can do the parallel loading, many different kind of jobs, and the locking is provided and everything, which is a really nice thing, and we use it in all our newer instances of the project, especially for with the Snowflake, okay, which is the majority of the project we have, new projects we have lately. I forgot to, I didn't include the one module we call data quality module, which is also handy and very integrated. So, and it is also integrated in this load on demand. So in most of the cases, you can just say, okay, load the data warehouse, and then at the end, you just check if everything is okay. And we divided these checks in technical checks, because technical checks are mostly concerned about the quality of the procedure, so you don't have duplicate records, and all the records are or the records are okay, that all the dimensions have, let's say, dummy row and stuff like that. So it's a technical check, and then you have business checks, and you can just define business check that you can check whether, I don't know, I'm just making it up, whether the customers that have bigger balance than $1 million, then you do something with it, whatever you desire. Okay, and it can be run in the scripts as a part of the execution engine, or it can be run on the fly with the front end tool. So it's up to you. So this is the kind of main features of DataMerlin, as I once recap. So it's a kind of built-in methodology, many different, we don't really care about the model types or the target. We don't really worry about the source databases. So it's not really hard coded, but templates in between each one of which these concepts that we can adapt easily. So we don't have to program, but we adapt with these templates, and it's a kind of a little bit of work that we can adapt to the certain situation you might have, and we didn't cover. So documentation is automatic. We have this loading automatic, which is a kind of nice feature at the end. So we have this integrated data quality, one platform for loading, mapping, monitoring, data quality checking, and we can connect also to other products, as I maybe mentioned before. So I think this is more or less it. So hopefully you are still with me, or I'm talking in in void for a long time. Anybody?
We are in the webinar mode, so we're just gonna address the questions at the end.
Okay.
So maybe now is the time to do a short demo. So in this case, we are going to switch the controls to another laptop where Istok has his demo environment ready. So bear with us for a second to log in and start with it. So I'm just gonna prepare everything to move the controls to Istok. Okay. Okay, I think we're good to go. Just setting up the controls. Give us a sec here.
I'll try to go briefly through the tool, and it's unfortunately I don't get any response. Yeah. Okay. And I don't. Sometimes it's very nice that I see faces and people asking questions, but I'm just going to talk to myself. But anyway, okay. So we'll go through, smoothly through kind of presentation briefly, and then later on you can ask questions, and I'm going to respond to that. So here you see those list of mappings. Mappings, as I said before, is one recipe how you're going to load one table, and one table can be loaded by many mappings if you want to. So I go through one step, so from one mapping, and this is a wizard. You have to go through all different kind of steps, and there is only, as I said before, there is only one important step you have to do. Okay, so in the first page you have the name and what is the status of the mapping, whether it is production, whether it is the development. And then you have the another important thing is you define the mapping type. So in this case, I'm going to load a dimension. You could have other types of table as desired. So satellites, relation tables, entity tables, whatever you want, fact tables. So you define how what is this the type of the mapping. And then you define the target database, and then you define the target table. So all those tables were imported to the common repository, to the catalog, we say before. And this is valid only for the target tables. All other tables can be imported manually, source tables, and or are imported automatically when you reference them in the mapping SQL. Okay, and then you have here the source database. And as I said before, mapping SQL can be from one database, from one source database, or can be from many. So it's a kind of federated query, but this is the main source database. And then there is the most important thing, and practically the only hard thing you have to do when you create the data warehouse. You have to define where the source data come from. So it's a kind of SQL, and prerequisite if you want really to use the tool is that you need to know the SQL. That's it. And this is the necessity. Okay, so this is the select statement. In our case, it's just one database, but it could be flat files combined, Oracle combined, and DB2 combined, and Snowflake combined. Whatever you want, you can have in the same SQL, which is not which is in normal databases it's not possible. Okay, and then on the right side, when I click this generate fields, it creates the structure of or the result of this select statement. So in the first, so this is the fields that are created when you execute this SQL. Okay, so if I could SQL, it's an Oracle. So you would see all those fields, and this is the structure of the select statement. And on the fly, also the parsing is done here. The creation of the extract and stage tables is done here. So everything needed when you do in this step. So, and because the statement was parsed, all the necessary tables from the source are imported to the catalog, and you can check the catalog. So all the data types, and then you can all the rows of the fields, and each one of these names has a special meaning. And then it is a source table. You can define, extract and load. If there is something special, you have to define the DDL, and you also see all the dependencies of this table in this common repository catalog. So this table is involved in mappings called the person, contract, policy, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then you see all the data lineage fields, and you can already load and create some object if you want to. Okay, so this was done automatically. Okay, and then if you remember the fourth step, this is one of the two steps you have to do. First of all, you have to create your mapping SQL SQL, and then you have to map. Map. Okay, and so this is the mapping SQL, the structure, and it's exactly the same as it is as this one. So the fields are the same, and the idea is that, and this is the target table. This is the target table called, in our example, the person, dimension person. And so this is the fields of the dimension. And then you just drag and drop if you want to map. That's why it's called mapping, because you directly map something. Here you have also auto match if there are the same names. And then so this is the second thing you have to do. You produce the certain result from the mapping SQL, and then you just say how it's going to be mapped to the target table. So this field surname goes to the surname target field in the target table. And then here are the data types, and there is a row of each column you have to mark, and it can be done before in the catalog, so that you don't have to do any all the time again. And so this is a surrogate key, and then this is the external reference, and so on and so forth. And then you just decide what kind of history you want to keep, you want to track. So this is slowly changing dimension type 1, but you could just change if you wanted to, like this, and then you update, and that's it. So this is the second thing you have to do, and basically everything else is done for you. So once again, the first thing is this mapping SQL, and this is you have to do, because the tool doesn't really know each source, because they're all different and many different situations. This is something you have to know, and this is the hardest thing in the implementation. But there is no other way. And then you just need to know your target system and how target table type of target model. It's better to say. And then how you're going to match the results from the source mapping SQL to the target table. Okay, so this is the mapping part is done. And then there is a creation of the job. And here is a nicely validation button. So everything seems to be valid with the mapping. If I, let's say, if I omit this external reference and I would validate again, so I would get the message external reference is not defined, and I would have problems later on. Okay, so I'll just try to put it again, and then validate, it's gone. And then I can just create the job. And the job is, if you remember, is all about creation of different recipes being put to execution engine. And many different recipes, and each mapping has its own recipes, but there is only one procedure that loads the dimension, and there is only one procedure that loads the fact tables or satellites, whatever that is. Okay, so I'm ready now to load the data. Okay, and I can load it here, or I can load it in the later on, this load on demand concept. And but when I'm doing the mapping, okay, I want to see whether data is whether I mapped okay, and if the desired target table will be loaded in the proper way. So, and you have two options here. You have load or creation. With the creation, I can just see how the DDLs of the previous creations, or if it doesn't exist, I can just create it if I wanted to, and then I can see the result. I can preview the data. I can load the data, so it's empty because I just created it. So everything is here. And then when I'm satisfied with the result, I can just load everything, but I won't load now not because it's a waste of time. Or I can load the special things I want to have. So all the tables needed to load these target table the person are here. Okay, and I see the counts, I see the and I can also load it if I wanted to. And when I see, okay, and then as a business analyst or somebody who's responsible for loading this table, I can just check the data here, or maybe in SQL editor. But I would be worried about why this name is null or blank or something really strange, but it has its own reference, and all the rest seems to be okay. And then you have these special ETL fields, and which is according to our own methodology, but it can be your methodology if you wanted to. And as I told you before, we have those templates we can adjust to. So, okay, it's opened record, is valid too. Then this is the ETL ID, or we call it people info ID, and the date of loading and stuff like that, and hashes. So, and when I'm happy with the table and with the loading, I'm done. Okay, so this is it. This is one part of it. And so I'm done with the mapping, and I can go to another one. Okay, and with that, all the documentation is already created, and all the data lineages are there. So all the dependencies, and this is the more or less the order of the data is going to be loaded. And then let's see that. So you can already documentation being built in, and or you can print it, or you can do whatever you want with it. And then you can also have these deployment scripts, as I told you before. You can just say what you're going to deploy, and then you can send normally that to some DBA, and then that DBA is going to use those scripts and populate it on the production environment, everything needed. Okay, and then because you have a common repository, okay, now it's going through the whole thing. Because you have a common repository, you have all the imported tables, whether it is a source or whether it is a target, you have all the objects there, and you can also search if you want to, according to to your needs. Okay, I'm just until this one does the thing, I'm going to just open another one. So you can, let's say, if I want to check where customer appears, so it appears in two data quality rules, and it's one is mentioned in this SQL, and another in some other SQL, which is detailed. So this is another model data quality, and this word customer was mentioned here. So I can just move to another one. I can, I don't know, product, And product is mentioned in many ways, and I can search and I can drill if I want to, but let's say this product is mentioned in the product mapping, and the name is includes the name product. So I can just click and I go, and it was searched before because of this word. Okay, so this I'll show you briefly two things. So this data quality module, which are kind of rules, and you have, as I said before, you have technical rules or business rules. It depends on you. And then you have this severity. If the rule is broken, how it's going to impact the data warehousing, the data warehouse. So if there is a technical rule, and then if there is a duplicating external reference, then it's a critical thing, and the loading must stop, and everything is you have to check it, and it's a big problem. But some rules are just informational, okay? And then so let's take one. Okay, so you have more than you have basically three ways of doing the DQs. One is simple mode, and simple mode says whatever this select statement returns. If it returns something, then it's a rule violation. Okay, and then you have simple indirect, which in this case, and this SQL produces number of statements, and then all these statements are executed, and if something is returned, then the rule is the rule is broken. You have to react according to your needs. So I'm just going, and of course you don't need this graphical interface to really run rules, because they are normally run during the load or in scripts. But this is also this is more like a development thing that I'm using, showing you now. So I just try to execute the rules, and it's because there are many tables and the many different because it's indirect. DQ is going to take some time before it finishes, and the result is sent through the mail, and with all the PDF included. And if it is included in load on demand, then it's also it can react through the it can stop the loading and stuff like that. So in this rule, we saw that there are three dimensions that have duplicate external references, which means the Cartesian join and stuff like that, when you have to stop the loading. So when you after each dimension, loading the dimension, you can say, okay, after each dimension, I have to check whether this dimension has a duplicate external reference, and if it has, then just stop the loading. This because it's dangerous. Okay, so this is the data quality, and you have mailing integration with the load and stuff like that. So maybe if somebody's interested some other time. Oh yeah, before just to you have also tutorials, just that people can go by easily. We address different things, and whenever something new is developed, then of course we try to include that. And now the loading, okay? The loading, as I said before, it's also automatic, and it's a very nice thing that you don't have to do. That you don't have to define how you're going to load the data, in which order, of course. That you don't have to define it manually. Okay, so I just try to create a new load just for the demonstration sake, and I will say, okay, I'm just try to load this kind of these two tables, or let's say this one as well. This is not a usual way. Probably you start from the end. You just, if you have dimensional modeling, you say okay, I'm going to load those two facts or those three facts or all the facts. It doesn't really matter. So, but for the demonstration purpose, I'm just going to just try to load these two tables. I'm just select it, go through the wizard, and I can already check the. So this is a graphical thing, how it's going to be the dependencies. So this, you have source tables, and then you have extract tables and stage tables, dimensions, lookups, and at the end, those two target tables, which are not really connected, because if you would have fact, then probably you would go further on. Okay, and then it's this execution plan, which is order how the tables are going to be loaded, and then you just save it, and then you can then you can just use those tables. Okay. 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 So, but I'm just trying to. The last thing I'm going to show you, and then you of course synchronize to the execution engine. But I'll just try to show you one example of the load. Let's say I'm just try to load this load on demand job. It was created previously. We have this. We try to load in demo, and then you just run it. Okay. And execution engine now started. And of course, you would do that. Not really. You don't really need graphical interface. You can just include that in some batch in behind. So it's not really needed. And then I can just monitor and watch what's happening through with the load. So it has started, and it's some jobs are running, and so on and so forth. And you can just see and react according to the problems, and it's all the logs are here, and everything needed to solve the problems is here in one place, which is a very nice thing, so that the old administrator and people who take care about the daily loads and DBAs at the customer side have one tool to go through all the necessary things. And so basically I've done a quick demonstration. Oh yeah, the last thing. Okay, so this is the we call it catalog, the common repository of all the project, of all the tables and all the things being having in the repository when you need to do the mappings and the loading and stuff like that. And so you can just check, as I showed you before, the properties of each table or each object, whatever you have, is a common place. And then you have this user management, project management, connection management. You have very different connections. You have this special thing to import the tables if you want to. You have this special thing for running for doing the flat files and so on. So and the glossary is another concept, but maybe some other time. So I think I overreached the final limit. If you have any questions, just please do ask the questions.
Thank you, Istok. It was quite extensive, so we're gonna move back to my PowerPoint just to finish off the presentation. I believe that so far we only got a few questions which were more or less already addressed. One was about the data validation, but we wouldn't really go through that again, because Istok explained quite extensively how the data quality module works. Maybe one interesting, because this is something that we do not cover, what are the different tools, or what kind of tools are you using for data modeling, which is not covered as part of the DataMerlin, because the target model has to be there. So what are we using, Istok, internally, maybe?
Well, for me, it doesn't really matter what you use, Irvin or I don't know, Power Design or whatever you use, it's okay. And
so what the answer is whatever you're using right now is suitable, unless you would like to move from the legacy system and start something completely new. All the rest of the questions were basically covered. So because we are really over time already, I'm going to answer all the rest of the questions via email. I'm going to follow up with everyone to see how satisfied you were with the presentation. And before we finish off, just a reminder that there is one more session we're going to going through in becoming weeks about Ant Farm, the data movement tool. So the DataMerlin is there to automate the data warehouse ETL process, and the data movement tool called Ant Farm is basically for kind of a lift and shift strategy where you need to really push a lot of data fast to the new cloud environment. For all the rest of the questions, please feel free to contact us via email, either directly to me or through sales email. Follow us on LinkedIn, and hope to see you again next time. Thank you and have a nice day.